Well, I just have to ask. So you were obviously a big Buffy fan. I mean, how did Buffy come into the? I mean, what were you like? Wow, let's do a podcast around this.
I've been a Buffy fan since I was like, it came out when I was like 11, 12 years old. So I kind of grew up with it on TV. So I
Okay,
was like obsessed kind of growing up.
sure.
I lived quite far away from like where my friends and stuff did from school. So I couldn't like, stay out and play with them. I had to go home because I lived kind of far away. So all I would do is watch Buffy with my sister like every night, just on repeat. I had like all the VHSs and then the DVDs and magazines
Oh
and
man,
everything. So
that's great.
my family, my dad's always kind of said at one point, like he used to like watching it until he knew how much I liked it because I just like really put him off it because I liked it so much. Dave, my best friend that I do the podcast with, I seen the odd episode here or there, but I just got like sober after a kind of like rough like 5 years, and he was like, we need to make sure we're like staying in touch, and like we should do like a podcast, and you can tell me all about Buffy or whatever. And then we started doing it, and
I love it,
it
man.
just kind of took off.
Buffy is therapy. I was gonna say I hadn't seen it in 30 years, whatever the last one I did it, and I was just me and my wife watched it, and it was so funny to watch. I mean, it's just the writing and the acting and the story, it's just hysterical. I was like, "Oh my God, what like, this is just so bizarre to see right now because I don't watch a lot of old TV, Like, so I don't that whole time period I hadn't watched anything from the '90s on TV, and, like, I just don't watch reruns of TV, so I was like, "Wow, this is pretty fascinating to just as a weird time capsule of, with the zeitgeist of the moment."
The hard part about that is kind of how fandom like evolves, and especially kind of like toxic fandom and stuff like on Reddit and people's opinions are like they're so precious about their opinions,
Oh God,
like
I can imagine.
we have some strong opinions sometimes. For us it's not that deep.
Yeah.
You also can't say that because then people say things like, oh well, if it's not that deep, then why do you have a podcast about it? Like,
Right, right, absolutely.
we're just trying to have fun. But yeah, I just want to thank you so much for doing this with us today. You are our multi hyphenate king, actor, writer, photographer, philanthropist. You've starred in nearly every major TV show since like the 90s onwards. You've like written and directed your own award-winning work. You're an accomplished photographer. You work with a non-profit that works with helps incarcerated men tell their stories through theater. So my first question for you, James, is there anything that you can't do?
It's so funny to hear that, you sit around your room wondering what you're gonna do for the day, and to hear rattled off like that just, um, it's kinda nice to hear because it I don't know, man, you know how life is, you just don't look at yourself that way, but, I don't knit. My wife does, I tried that. I was like, everything I love crafts, and I love hobbies, and my wife's jealous because I have so many of them, like, I get into stuff, and I wanna I go down that wormhole and watch 20 YouTube videos of how to do it, but, no, knitting I couldn't do, and it's funny, when I look back on all the shows I've done, I mean, it's funny how they just happened, you know what I mean? I mean, as I get older in my career, you get at this stage of the game and the way the business has changed and moved out of LA and the streaming, they're not making as many shows, it's kind of really interesting for me to even reflect on something that I did 30 years ago because I don't do a lot of podcasts. I get people who write me and ask questions about different things I'm in from time to time, and I try to follow up. Um, but I've never really, I'm kind of the type of person, once I do something, I really move on and I don't go back. It's just my personality. It kind of feels strange in a way. You know what I mean? You kind of see, because you were so different back in those times, and I still got the mustache from the shoot though, so that's good.
The mustache lives on.
Oh
That's
my God.
Detective Stein
Yep.
was setting the bar for all of us young queer boys watching Buffy. We're just like,
I was why I had that. Um, I was doing 2 movies at the time. I was doing Mercury Rising, and also, Larry David did his first movie, Sour Grapes, and I played a detective in Sour Grapes,
Mhm.
and I had this mustache, and I couldn't shave it because I was doing stuff in between. So anything I got hired for because of the sour grapes, I had to have that mustache. So I kind of liked that. It kind of felt different and charactery, and anything to me that's charactery, I kind of lean towards. So, and if you don't got any hair up here, you want
Yeah,
to, this is all you got to play with, right?
that's it. I'm slowly, it's slowly, working its way back. So I'm trying
You look,
to
you
bring it
look,
a little bit.
you got plenty up there, brother. I mean, I lost my hair at like 23.
I know I sent you a clip of us from the podcast where we were talking about my love for kind of bald mustached men. We made a joke about like having my favorite haircut because when I was younger, I always wanted like to shave up here and to keep my hair around here. I never understood why my mom and dad wouldn't let me get that haircut, but I've just always loved that.
That's like a the friar talk. Yeah. But you've always just like, well, why don't you shave your head? You've had your head shaved. I've seen some of the episodes. It's really close cropped, right?
So usually when it starts to get a little patchy, then I know it's like time to kind of
To shave it.
shave it off. I'm not kind of one of those people that's like clinging to dear life like to my hairline, but I just would love it to grow. I just would like to have like long ish. I just want to like
Oh,
rub my
beautiful
fingers through
one.
my hair
Oh
and
my God. You and me both, brother. I wish I had hair. I had some pieces I've used over the years, which have been pretty fun. I have a longish kind of piece. Man, you look so different with hair. I mean, as a person and an actor, God, because it's limiting to just have. I like have one look. It's like, okay, bald guy, white bald
but
guy.
it's a good look.
It's worked.
Yeah, it's worked for you. But how does it feel being, the sex symbol of Buffy season 3 for us? At least for
Uh,
us. For me, it shouldn't
oh
speak
my
for Dave. He's
God.
straight, but he gets lumped in with the gays all the time.
I kind of love it. I don't know what it is about me that I I have a huge there's like a lot of gay men like when I did from Sex in the City. Probably every 2 weeks someone on Instagram gets some gay man, messages me about Garth and asks a question. I don't know what it is like God, I wonder, only if women thought I was this sexy like for some reason in that with that population. And I went through my young 20s where I was in New York and I had a lot of gay friends and it's like, wow, that world was right there. I never went down that road, but it's been it's been fun to be admired in that community. And let me tell you.
Obviously, we're talking here today because we're a Buffy podcast and you were in Buffy, but you've appeared in some of the biggest TV shows in the world, from Sex and the City, ER, Star Trek, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I'm actually a huge fan of, and I didn't realize until I was doing my research that you were in an
Mhm.
episode of that as well, so that was great. True Detective, American Horror Story, CSI, ER, I could go on, but I wanted to ask you, which role do you get recognized for the most?
It has to be Garth from Sex and the City. And I think because one of the reasons in the 2000s, it started rerunning like crazy. They started rerunning it on Netflix. Well, maybe Netflix, but I remember my kids were little back then, and I went to drop them off at school, and I'm walking through the halls, and like three women kind of look at me like they're gonna say something, and they don't. And then I'm like, and I go, and then one of them goes, "Are you an actor?" And I go, "Yeah." They said, "You're Garth." And and so all the moms at my mom's school, at my kid's school, a lot of them had seen the show, and it's literally because, well, that show also has a huge afterlife. I don't know what it is about it. It's on all the time. And then my daughter went to college. Like, and her generation, she was like 20 at the time. She was like a sophomore. All her friends started watching Sex in the City, and she had never seen me in it. So, that was kind of a little embarrassing for her. But, yeah, I guess it would really have to be that role. Oh, I have the, so when I did does this have to be PG-13 or can it be?
It definitely doesn't,
Because this box has the whole product.
the whole thing.
But when I shot it, I don't know, in the Hustler store on Sunset Boulevard, I'm sitting in front of, they had like 200 of these boxes behind me. And when I when I got done with the shoot, I looked to the prop guy and I said, "Guys, what are you gonna do with all those boxes?" And I go, "We're throwing them out." I'm like, "Can I take some?" And so I took like 10 of them. And when I had them, everybody wanted them. They thought that was the coolest thing. And I gave them to all my friends. And
Yeah.
I was doing a keto at the time, and my sensei wanted one. And he's this like really conservative Japanese guy, and he wanted one. And then little by little, everybody had to give them back because they're like, "Oh man, I can't have this in my drawer because if my maid finds it or, my sense is like, I love this, but if I die and they find this." So they all started coming back to me and that's the last one I have, but it's kind of a really fun, weird. And my wife makes me hide it because
That's brilliant.
she didn't want the kids to see it when they were growing up. So
I was gonna ask you actually, did you do like a special photo shoot specifically for that?
I did. Yeah, we were at a hotel on Sunset, down at the pool on the lounge. Set me up.
And do you get many people asking you if the model is who's it
Yeah,
actually
accurate.
modeled on?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I'll be truthful. When we did the
I know.
shoot, actually one of the reasons I got the role was I'm really good friends with Michael Patrick King. Not really good friends. We were friends and in a theater company together before he started Sex in the City. He comes from a theater background, so we had done some theater, and then he did Sex in the City with Darren Star. And I hadn't got on the show, and I went and auditioned, and I got the part. When we were shooting it, and I'm doing the poetry, and I don't know if you noticed, but he put a little pin spot on my underwear. But yeah, they slammed in a big sausage in my underwear, and that just so it would be, really accentuated it. Not that I needed it, but
Well, since we're talking about Garth, the infamous dildo model, in one of the most iconic episodes, I think, from Sex and the City, Escape to LA. I mean, I could ask you a million questions about the wonderful, sensitive poet and dildo model. But when you first got the call for this role, what did you think you were walking into?
when I got the call, yeah, because I didn't get offered the role, even though I was, I had an E and I was friends with the producer. You still have, when you get you still have to convince, 8 other people that you're right for the job besides your one friend, even if he created the show. I thought it was an amazing role. I mean, when do you get to be a freaking dildo model? You know what I mean? On Sex in the City, it was like the biggest show of the time. And I just wanted to have fun with it. And I mean, the character made complete sense to me. Of course, a porn star is going to be a poet. That's like fucking, yeah, that's real life to me. I was like, I know this guy.
Yeah.
He's not that far from me. I write and I'm an actor. And yeah, all I wanted to do, like when, the key to getting roles is be relaxed. And if you can just be relaxed and be at ease, you're going to be able to do your thing. Sometimes if I'm over nervous, if I let the nerves get to me, I mean, that's really when you can have a bad audition because you go up on your lines, you're stressed. You want to come in the room. It was back in the day when you went in the room for an audition. Now everything's on tape. You don't walk in a room with 5 people, a director and 3 producers. And when you walk in
Mhm.
that room, your presence is there, and you can maybe crack a couple jokes, and you can get the job because they kind of get a vibe of who you are. So
Yeah.
I just remember thinking, I just want to like, you got to be winning and hopefully get them to laugh a couple times, have the right look. I had this kind of 70s shiny shirt that I wore real down with some chains, and yeah, it worked out. Yeah, I got it. So rest is history on that.
And had you watched the show before, or did you have to kind of crash course it?
No, I was familiar with it. I hadn't watched it a lot, but obviously I knew of it, and because Michael was doing it, I was curious about it. So I was very familiar with it. I was nervous because, I think that's the first time I believe it ever kissed. I don't do love scenes. I'm bad guy. I'm a bad guy cop or wife beater.
Hmm.
I don't have, I'm never like making love to someone. That was the first time. And like Kim Cattrall's, she's giant, right? Like, oh my God. Like, so I'm going to meet, and it didn't go well at first. She she was
Oh, really?
not she was not in a good mood. She was tired. I think she was really annoyed and sick of guys coming on the set and having to and getting stooped every episode. You know what I mean? I mean, it's pretty because you're
Yeah.
physical and she's like, and she was a little tough on me. It was pretty interesting. I had to really just kind of go, okay. It was funny. I went, we were gonna do our first kiss, and we're kinda close, like, talking, and this is, like, I don't even know her yet. We haven't said it, and she looks at me and she goes, "Did you have onions for lunch?" Like, seriously? Like, my breath's bad? And I never I never have bad breath, but I'm thinking and I'm like, "Holy shit, I had a freaking burrito." So, like, I'm like, "Okay, no more burritos before love scenes." So she kinda put me over here with that, right? Like, "Do you have onions for lunch?" I'm like, "Oh, Jesus." Then we had to do I did all the poetry and stuff, and that was all fine, and then we had to get down to do the lovemaking. They have a couple shots of us doing it. She was so not into doing that scene, like, you know what I mean? And I don't know, I usually don't do that scene. I don't even know how it works, but they give you these,
Yeah.
so you're supposed to look naked, but you get these things that are super tight. So on the guy, they're supposed to push your junk really far back and tight so it doesn't hit her. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So this is all new to me. So I've got these like tidy tan things on that are supposed to like, tuck it all up in, and we go start doing it, and she's like, "No, no, no. I can still feel him. I can still feel him." And then they're like, "What? You got to go put on 2 pair of those tight underwear things." So they sent me back out. I had to put on this other pair. And you know what I mean? I'm like, I don't even know how this works. And this is back before the day where they had the people on the set, what are the coordinators, what's the term?
Intimacy coordinators.
Yeah, there was no intimacy coordinators making sure everybody felt good. She was kinda so hard on me, like, I think after the 3rd time they made me put on 3 of those pair of underwears, my friend Michael ran in the room and he said, "Why are you being so mean to my friend?" To her, because she was just, I mean, that's my little inside scoop on, you know, the wonderful world of intimacy. It's complicated, you know what I mean? I mean, you basically shake hands with this person and you're got all your clothes off and you're simulating sex, so I could understand why she would be a little like, "Oh god, I'm not in the mood for this right now," you know? I saw her the next night, and she actually apologized and said, "I'm sorry, I was just really tired. It wasn't you." And I was like, "It's cool, because I did, you know, I got it. It's like, it's gotta be hard. I mean, and she tried, they flew from New York and just started shooting, and those shooting schedules on TV are like, you're working 14 hours. Even the actors are working like 12, 14 hours a day, so everyone's really tired and cranky, but, besides that, it was a blast. It was just a whole bizarre world to me as far as, like, getting filmed having sex.
Kind of coincidentally, that also happens to be an episode of Sex and the City that Sarah Michelle Gellar guest stars in as well.
That's so funny.
She plays a character called Debbie who appears in it like very briefly. So I thought that was a nice little tie-in to Buffy as
Wow.
well, that you've actually been her co-star in two of the biggest shows of the 90s. In Buffy, you play the sexiest detective with the mustache, Paul Stein, who on no other than 3 separate occasions questions Buffy about her involvement in 3 completely different murders. As far as we're aware from watching it, and Dave and I talk about this in the episode, we think that Paul Stein is a good guy that doesn't really know about the supernatural in Sunnydale. But I just wanted to ask, do you have to do much prep for a character like that where you don't really know if they're good or bad, or do you get it any direction, or can you kind of build your own backstory?
That character's pretty straightforward, and you're right. He does I'm pretty sure he's clueless to the supernatural world that's around him. Um, for something like that, because, I mean, that's just so right up my alley, playing these detectives and military types. I pretty much,
Yeah.
um, don't have to do a lot of background work unless there's something unusual about him, or, he's got a twist in the end where he's, you think he's a good guy, then it turns out to be the bad guy. There might be some layering you wanna put in. But,
Hmm.
as far as I remember and even watching it, it's really pretty straightforward what I'm doing, you know what I mean? And he does seem to believe Buffy, and he seems sympathetic to her. I think they wanted that. He's not really mean to her. He's kind of like, "Well, it sounds like
Yeah.
Ted did smack you, so we're gonna kind of," so he really trusts her, and that's believable. She's a young, she does, and she had a good story. So, for that role, um, it was pretty straightforward. And, you know, for me, directorial wise, going on to these TV shows, a lot of the directors, a lot of them don't have an acting background. So a lot of times you won't get no's. They might be more
Mhm.
technical or come up as a producer. So they're really into I've cast the right person, just let them go. So most of the time, if a director doesn't give me a no, I know I'm doing it right. And
Yeah.
as they don't, if they just say, "Great, James, great, perfect." That's the best to me. Um, uh, every once in a while, they'll give you, change this or be a little stronger or kind of sit back a little more with that or be a little more intense or whatever. And that's all good. But in general, if they're not saying anything to you, you're doing well. You have to assume that. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes they don't say stuff so much that you wish they'd go, "Wow, great job." Sometimes they don't say anything. You're like, "Am I
Yeah.
doing this right?" And you're not. I guess because they didn't say anything, they liked it. So okay, moving on, next shot. And you're like, "Okay, I guess that was great." Um, but yeah. So Paul was pretty. I thought he was pretty straightforward.
Well, like you said, you've worked with many different directors over the years, so I'm curious, out of the notes that you have been given, has there been like, any really good kind of advice, or what is the best note or direction that you've ever been given?
If I'm going in the right direction and they encourage me and they give me subtle changes, the best direction from some of the biggest directors are they like the direction you're going, but then they'll let you play around and they'll say, "That's great. Now
Mm.
we got that. Let's do it this way. Let's make him a little more menacing, or let's make him a little more unsure of himself, or something like that." It's just a little, and that feels great because then you're just like, they're getting these takes, they're getting multiple different versions, and then you're just going to trust in editing. They're gonna get what they need. I mean, I have had plenty of notes that have not been good. One of my first films was Dario Argente's, the Italian director who does horror films, uh, Two Evil Eyes. And I'm a young
Mhm.
actor, man. It's like I'm pretty new to the game, and I had my scene with Harvey Keitel and John Amos. So we did the shot without me. Harvey's off camera, and it's about his daughter. It was based on the Edgar Allan Poe short story where the person's buried in the wall and cats are eating her. And I think it's his daughter we're looking. His daughter or his girl, maybe his girl. I can't remember if his girlfriend or his daughter. Anyway, he's looking at this picture, and we did the take, and I'm like, pick up the picture, and I'm like, okay, just being really straight about it. And Harvey, the director, wanted me to mess with him and didn't tell Harvey I was going to do this, and had me play the scene totally different. He goes, "No, I want you to, when you pick up the picture of his daughter, be like he's messing with her, like he's having sex with her, make it like, ooh, and she's really hot and attractive." And I was like, "Okay." So we get filming, and I pick up the picture, and I do it totally different than I've ever done it before, and the camera's on him, and he loses his shit. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing? You can't do that. You got to do it the way you did it." And he's mad at me. And he's going, "What do what's up with this guy?" And he's like going off on me. And I'm kind of like, "Hey, the director asked me to do that." I'm trying to, like, shit like that
Oh my
happens.
god.
Yeah, it was pretty unnerving. And I don't think that Dario ever told him that he had said that to me, to piss him off. But I guess but that's what he wanted. He got the shot of him being really pissed. I worked with Clint Eastwood on. I got two stories about directors. One, Clint Eastwood. I love when I did Space Cowboys. I think he was so sick of directors yelling action to him that when you're on his set, he doesn't say action. He doesn't yell action because he. So when you do it, whenever I would do the scene, he would just come up and talk to you. He's really quiet, and he goes, "All right, Jimmy. Anytime you're ready, you just start. Whenever you're ready." And that's how it worked. He never yelled action. And I thought that was really kind of cool. And he kind of walks off. One little story is I was very young and I had a very small part in Spike Lee's Malcolm X. And I had a scene with Denzel Washington where they've brought one of his brothers back in, and he's all beaten up and bloody. And I'm one of the policemen, who I think I got a couple lines who brought him in, and I'm sitting back behind, and Denzel's up with his brother who's all beaten up and bloody. And so I got to watch him work, right, as a young actor. That was super exciting because he was, he's Denzel Washington. And so they Spike's behind me, and it's this scene where Denzel. I'm going to kind of paraphrase it to kind of loosely remember that he's like with his brother and he's kind of talking about what needs to be done and they need to get a doctor and I want a doctor here right now and da 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 yada. They did like 4 takes and Denzel was just super straight, like hardly any emotion. And I was like, okay, I guess, that's that's fine. Then Spike came up to him and I was like right there. And he came up like for the next shot, he's like, Denzel, I really need to like, I need you to go there. I need you to like, I need you to, it's like, okay, I got it. Do the same. Denzel's like, same as he was before. Spike comes up again. Denzel, no, listen, really, I need you to, this is like a big scene. I need you to. Denzel's like, yeah, you want more? Okay, yeah. Goes back, same thing again. Spike comes up again. Denzel, man, I really need you to. And so Denzel starts to get emotional. But it was interesting as a young actor because I always thought the pressure was like, you come on, man. This is kind of what I do in my delivery. You load it for bear and you do what's need to be done and you're emotionally there. That's professional. So as a young actor to see that someone like Denzel Washington didn't have it there and the director had to
Mhm.
literally go up to him 3 times and pull it out of him was kind of mind-blowing to me because I just expected, perfection from him. And that's not always the case. It was like, oh, okay, this takes work sometimes. And sometimes maybe, and I don't know if Denzel had a different idea of the
Mhm.
scene and he was resisting it, but seeing things like that, there is a real process that goes on. And I guess it may be a tug and a pull between, on Mercury Rising. Is it okay to tell these stories?
Oh yeah, please do. Yeah, they're really interesting.
So again, another example of a director, uh, Harold Becker on Mercury Rising, Bruce Willis, is in I was in the opening that he's robbing a bank and he's undercover as one of the robbers in the beginning. And I'm one of the SWAT guys who comes in. And just when you start a scene, when you rehearse a scene, and they go, let's rehearse, and they bring in the crew, and we're going to put the camera over here, and we're going to do this, and let's just read the lines, and you kind of mark it and read through it. And Bruce Willis had his script, and Bruce, this is the first day of the shoot, the first scene, like they haven't done anything yet, right? Okay, let's read the words. Action. Bruce Willis. You gonna have a camera over here? You gonna put a camera there? Because I'm just wondering, like, if I turn this way, am I gonna? And Harold's like, yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, Bruce, we're gonna get that set up. But let's just read let's go, let's read it. And action. So when I get down and I'm shot, like I'm gonna be on the ground and you're gonna he's like, Bruce, let's just read the words. Let's read the words. We never read the scene. He tried to get him to read it like 4 times. And then Harold said, okay, we're just gonna shoot it. Thank you, everybody. Come back. And we didn't read it till it was set up and we were doing it. But that's like the power of a star, right? Like the first day kind of establishing who's in charge. I think that was the movie back in the 90s when you remember when stars were getting like 9 million a movie and everybody else was getting
Yeah.
scale. You know what I mean? They would take the whole budget. And these guys, yeah. And so they're, an example. And Bruce Willis was super cool to the cast and me, super generous. Like he was so nice, like could not have been nicer to everybody. And you could see that the way, like I think I sat at the table and had lunch with him. But just a great example of the power dynamic between the big stars and the director sometime to establish the king dog in the room.
Seeing, I guess, everything move towards streaming and it maybe things become a bit more of a popularity contest. Even looking at your IMDb, like you have worked with some of like the most amazing directors and big movie stars. How does that change? What does that look like in your working life now, I guess, compared to the 90s and early 2000s?
Everything's changed. You know what I mean? I mean, the whole studio system. Look at the studios all getting gobbled up by like Amazon and Netflix. Buying Warner Brothers, and so it's all different. I mean, there was so much money in the 90s. I was just talking to someone at a Christmas party, someone who's a lighting guy, and you'd walk on a set in the 90s, and they would just give you stuff. They would come over to you with like they'd have a case of Ray-Ban sunglasses. And they'd be like, "You want some Ray-Bans?" And I'd be like, "Shh, what do you mean?" Like, like, you don't pick one out. Pick some out. And I'm like, okay, these are cool. Like I can keep them. Yeah. And so I don't know if Ray-Ban, sent, a bunch of boxes to, maybe they wanted them used, used in the shoot, but there was just so
Mm.
much money and, everybody was making money in the 90s. You know what I'm saying? Like the films and it was also when DVDs were big. So the actors like on those films, my residuals for like Broken Arrow and Volcano and these big films I did were giant. My residuals now
Yeah.
are like pennies on the dollar because of streaming. We went on strike. I'm not even sure why because we're not getting a tenth of what we should for our streaming residuals. If you do one of the network shows, CBS, NBC, ABC, they still have residuals that pay well. And I was lucky and tended to do a lot of those procedural shows like the CSIs and the JAGs and all those. So that was nice because you do get some good residuals. So, I mean, if I was a young actor coming into this business, I mean, I wouldn't even know where, because back in the day, you just got an agent and you went in and saw now it's like they want you to have followers. You need an Instagram account, you need a YouTube
Yeah.
channel, and before an agent will even sign you, it's like, how many followers do you have? So if I would go into an audition for, let's say, a JAG guest star and get a call back, maybe there's 25 guys there, sitting in the hall over the day. Now, with taping, they're gonna get tapes from all over the freaking world. They're gonna have I'm probably up against, I don't know, 100 guys? You know what I mean? They can just click and click and click, whereas so it's like it's harder to get work. There's not as many shows after COVID. They pull, we had that glut of streaming where they were making so much, and then they're like, "Wait, we didn't figure out the model to actually know how to make money with this streaming." And then we did the strike, and that gave them time to, get write off all their losses in the books. And now they're just kind of figuring out how to make money with the streaming, what to charge, what people will pay. The movie industry, the films are, like you said, the star thing. Like they're not bringing people into the theater. I'm not sure where it is, but I'm at the other. I'm kind of on the unless something really big comes up, I'm kind of on the other end of my career. I'm kind of like getting older and doing other things. And I'm still, got my foot in the door. And if something comes up, I love to do it and I love to work. But I wonder how it is for younger people.
Will you be available if they tell you that Detective Paul Stein is now Chief of Police
Yeah,
Paul Stein in the new Buffy reboot?
100%. And we can even put a little brown on my mustache, so I'll look the same. Pull the neck back. Pull the neck back. My last job I did, I did a detective. I was, Ballard on Amazon was the last show I did. And, it's so funny. And I was just this hard ass detective. I don't know, man. They love me in a suit. I don't know what it is. They love me in a uniform.
Some people are just gorgeous people, and the rest of us just have to make do
Oh
with
my
what's left,
God.
you know?
See, this is so good. I hear this now because I wander around in my backyard cleaning up my dog do and wondering, what I'm going to do next. So this will feed me for, the next audition I have. I'll have your little
Good.
mantra in my brain where I'm like, man, maybe I still got it.
If they bring you back, to Buffy as Chief of Police Paul Stein, and you're like, I think this scene would do really good with like an Irish immigrant cop,
Oh
then you can
yeah.
tell them.
I know the guy. We'll bring you in. Is there ever, and I don't follow this series, has there ever been talk of rebooting Buffy?
They've shot the pilot. It's directed by Chloe Zhao, the Oscar-winning director.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Wow. And is Sarah's doing it?
Yep, she agreed.
Well, then maybe they will bring Detective Paul back.
That's what I'm hoping, That's the dream. I don't want some new guy in there running the Sunnydale police,
When I went to the table read for the first show that John Ritter was doing, I'm a huge John Ritter fan. Three's Company. I mean, the physical comedy. When growing up, I just thought he was funny. I mean, I loved him. One of my favorite actors as a young person. So I was kind of, a little like, wow, freaking doing this show with John, because you have the table read. And so we go to the table read and he did the coolest thing, which most people don't do. before the table read, he got up and he went around the whole room and he shook everyone's hand and introduced himself. And that small gesture, people never do that. Like sometimes the stars of the show, they sit at the end of the table with their sandwich, mumbling, looking down, don't say hi, and they get up and leave. You know what I mean? Or if a guest star comes in, they just act like, it was just such a wonderful, warm gesture of who he was that he went around and greeted everybody. I was like, what a class act. He was really a cool guy, I think.
David and I, when we covered those episodes, we were just like, we even just having someone like John Ritter, I think, brings so much like weight into a show like Buffy. Being able
Yeah.
to get some of the kind of guest stars ahead, it just helps people take. I suppose I take it a little more seriously, even though it's such a ridiculous concept. Even down to the
Hmm.
name. I love listening to like when people get really, really into it and they're analyzing. The depths of all of these things, and I'm just like, John Ritter's probably just like, I get to play this like homicidal robot that is just,
Yeah. That's why I did it. He never plays the bad guy. He wanted to play a
yeah,
villain. It's like when Robin Williams, played the villain. He started playing some villains in some of his later films. The one with Al Pacino, he played the bad guy. I can't
yeah,
remember, but it like comedians can be amazing villains because they have that depth, to just be weirdly
yeah.
interesting.
Do you have a preference over if you have to play like a
You know what? I would love to do more comedy because the comedy I've done, I actually started out like doing improv and stuff in college and in high school and did a lot of comedy. And then once I started working, I started playing all these heavies and serious roles, like the heavy. And then you kind of get seen as that. Like if you do a few of them, they just kind of want to keep you in that spot. So I did I have done some sitcom comedy, and I would love to do like some HBO, Netflix series of just some character who's just, over here in some weird world, really grounded, but
yeah.
just off, like have that humor. Um, I love the serious roles, but, you know, you can only go if you've done them, a bunch of them, you kind of want to do what you haven't done. So to me, that would be a newer experience and something, a chance that I do have a question for you that which I was watching the show, with my wife, Buffy, the last scene of I think it's the first episode, I guess, starring Ted. Yeah, the one with John Ritter. At the end of the scene, they're sitting in the porch and they're eating this super crunchy snack, and it's really loud, and we're like, "What the heck are they eating?" And they were eating snap peas, which I thought was the weirdest snack. It was just so funny because they were crunching super loud, they didn't have a dip, and it was like, and then she would take one and be like, "Carn, kind, kind," and I'm like,
Yeah,
"What the hell are they eating?" I just thought it was so funny, but then as an actor, they're like, we don't want potato chips or anything fattening, because usually be eating like, chips or something really, delicious, like, and they're like,
yeah.
"Can we, uh, tell Crafty we just want, snap peas for, what would you guys like to eat? Snap peas." Okay. Because it kind of stands out in a really bizarre way to me.
One of the things recently we were watching was behind the scenes where I think Sarah Michelle Gellar had to make like a ton of like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and the behind the scenes is like she's really concerned about the food waste, so she didn't want to like do it until it was time to actually do it, and then suggesting like donating everything that they'd made to like to food shelter, which I thought that was just
Perfect.
a really kind of nice little behind the scenes
Yep.
kind of moment because there's not often a ton of really positive behind the scene moments that you hear
Yeah.
sometimes with people talking about, as
Yep.
a stressed young woman who was working, 18-hour days.
Right.
Like I love the idea of fame and celebrity, and then I read like one negative comment about our podcast and I'm like, oh my God, I can't cope with it. So I just can't imagine
I
how.
know. Think about it, right? I know. Being in that bubble. Oh, and now today, what anybody can say on social media is horrible. It'd be brutal.
Obviously, if you're an artist and you're creating something to go out in the world, then obviously I think you invite an element of critique in. But for people who just all the keyboard warriors that exist now, I just feel bad
Hmm.
for. I try my hardest to not get caught up in those things, but of course I love it when I read great things. Like you love your
I
podcast, it's
know.
so good. Or when other people are like, this guy just like won't shut the. I hate his accent, and he won't. Like, okay, fine,
Isn't it horrible? You'll have
thanks a
you'll
lot.
have 10 comments. You'll have 10 positive raving or 20 comments, and there'll be that one guy who says that, and that's all you think about the whole fucking day. the whole day, you're just
Yeah,
like that one day, and you're
yeah.
like, "I'm not gonna respond. I'm not gonna respond. I'm not gonna respond." You know? And then sometimes, you do, and sometimes you don't, sometimes it's crazy.
That's something I think is hard. Even when you were talking about like nowadays, they kind of expect you to have a certain following, or that's something I think even Maya Hawke recently talked about first with Stranger Things. Like, there's an element of like how many followers you have, and even to a degree, that's why I even messaged you from my personal Instagram account because I have like 10,000 followers from like my very
Mhm.
small photography career. But obviously I know that like if I had maybe messaged from an account, that maybe has 700 followers, people will maybe just be like, oh, I don't know if I take this as seriously. And I think that's one of the things that we're kind of alluding to, is that the quality of your content isn't measured anymore. It's more like, well, how does it appear?
It's so irrelevant to me, I didn't even look at how many followers you had. I just took it purely on what you wrote to me. Like, your
Yeah.
emails seem really genuine, and that's and then I just looked at and then I said, "Well, what do these guys even do?" And then I watched like 10 minutes of your podcast, and "Oh, okay, they're having a great time. This is fun." I thought, "This is really fun," because that's where you get it, but I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure the average person would totally look at how many followers, like, I'm sure that's really important that you do it that way. But it's funny, I didn't even think to check, which is just how out I'm really, I mean, I have like like I have such a small account myself that it's like, I just do it for to basically catalog my photos and have a place for people to find me if they really want to find me.
Well, speaking of your photography, I'd love to chat to you a little bit about
Sure.
your work. You take incredible shots. I say this as like as a photographer as well. Primarily, that's kind of my has been my career.
I was gonna first, before you go into that, what kind of photography are you drawn to? What do you like to shoot?
Primarily, people and fashion. My love for doing fashion photography actually really came from kind of consuming America's Next Top Model when I was growing up. When I look at people who take pictures of like landscapes or like even like street photography to an extent as well, I'm just like, I just don't have that eye. But I'm so fascinated that you could be really good at one thing and not necessarily have your strength in another thing. So that's what I really like enjoy
Yeah.
about your work, is that you just have that eye, I think, for capturing something that feels like it feels like a real memory or something. It feels like you're walking down the street seeing it
Mhm.
too. Like, I think one of my favorite pictures of yours on your website is like the Chrysler, and it's all like dirty,
Oh,
like
yeah.
at the back, because I love the idea of like this fancy kind of image, but it's like like destroyed
Yeah.
and slightly like
Yes.
outdated.
I love photographing people in their element and what they wear. So a lot of the photos, people are kinda wearing something either unusual, fashionable, or just something unique, and having lived in New York, I loved, like, going to thrift stores and throwing together some freaking crazy outfit for $12, and I still love to do that, you know what I mean? I love leather, I have a huge collection of vintage jackets. To me, it's just all vintage jackets and shoes, your boots, your jacket. So I have a kind of a low down fashion fetish, so when I
Yeah,
see people on the street that are dressed cool, I take it, and then I also just people's faces, like, faces are amazing, so I am really drawn, to people, and and then and then the context to what they're in, it's so fun to, like, we took a trip to Brooklyn recently, and I hadn't been back in a long time, and to be under the train bridges, where the J train, where they go, where you have the shadows and the light and and then here I shoot a lot. I go downtown LA, which has a real urban vibe. LA has so many different crazy, from
yeah.
the desert to the mountains to the ocean, but downtown, where I take a lot of my photos, is very, very urban. You wouldn't even know, be like, what city is this, I play around. I'm not good with film at all, but because I do so much thrifting, I would always just find an old camera in a thrift store and see if it works and bring it home and throw a roll of
Yeah.
film in it. And that's kind of what got me started, is just finding these old cameras and throwing film in it and going, God, first of all, these old cameras are so fun. It's such a treasure hunt. And then to see if it works, and then to see if the pictures worked, and you have to wait. That's a slow process. Maybe I should get like a point and shoot. I got like early 2000s, because you can get a cheap digital camera now that's freaking amazing for,
Yeah.
$200. And that's when I really started to go, wow, I can go rattle off, I can take 150 pictures. And I think like if I take 150 pictures and I get two that are good, that's a great day. So, it's just so fun. But it is, I've had incidents, I've had people who are not, you know, wondering what the hell you're doing, like most people kind of get it, but every once in a while, I don't know if you've had that experience, if you're shooting people just out and about, they want sometimes it gets a little hairy.
Yeah, one time I was actually shooting, a friend of mine, and we were doing like a little fashion shoot, but we were doing it in a park across the street from where I lived, and it was at 7 p.m. at night, but it was like a kids play park, but there were no kids, and the police came. I guess someone had seen, that this girl in
Oh
her
my
bathing suit,
gosh.
and the police came and they they kind of questioned me, and I was like, this is like nothing. I was like, I live across the street. Like, we are just doing like a little fashion shoot for Instagram or Facebook or
Oh
whatever.
my gosh. Yeah.
Last summer, I was the photographer at a summer camp for an international boarding school in Switzerland,
Oh, whoa.
and I started using like a 300 mil, like 70 to 300 mil, like really like I'd never used a lens like that before. I'm not a technical trained photographer, like I'm self taught, like and so I'm not really like an equipment whore or anything. I'll just kind of like put things together, and if it works, and figure that out. And it was like the first time ever using that lens where I was like, oh, this is so great. You can photo people from like so far away.
Yep.
And
Yep.
not in a creepy way for anyone who's listening, but yeah, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to ask you about that, because I get the sense from your work, and sometimes I don't even like calling it work, because I don't like calling what I do work either, because I just feel it like
Hmm.
I'm just making art, or like, and I don't like to think of it in that way. But I think you
Yeah.
can see like your passion and talent and like raw eye. And sometimes one of the things I would have been insecure about when I was working professionally and even commercially is like photographers want to talk about lenses or cameras or stuff, and I'm just sometimes like, that's not the part that I'm interested in. It's
I'm
like
I'm like
I like
I'm
the
like
image
you.
at the end, you know.
Yes. I'm like you 100%. I have no technically, like, I could care less. And I love, like, have you heard of Lomo photography, like the imperfection with cheap plastic cameras, that whole movement? I mean,
Yep,
that's kind of
yep.
what got me started because, yeah, I'm such not a technical person. I kind of just love the accidents. So to me, when I'd find that camera at Goodwill and throw a roll of film and it would have a light leak here or there's little scratches on the lens. I mean, that's the beauty of it for me, the
Hmm.
imperfections.
Yeah, that's I learned that quite quickly when I accidentally would cleaned my really good first camera lens I got with like the wrong thing, and it like washed the protection off the lens.
Oh,
But then from
no.
then it meant I got like loads of like light leaks and stuff in it. So it actually became like a bit of a staple in my work.
Oh, cool.
People could tell,
Yeah.
oh, you've got a style, and I was like, well, that was by mistake because I ruined that camera
See,
lens.
that's great. Happy accidents.
You mentioned your writing. I was really floored by it in many
Mm.
ways. I consider myself like a spiritual person. I used to be a Christian missionary before I came out.
Oh my gosh.
So
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I've got a bit of a background in, my own personal search for like what's in the universe.
Yeah.
And I think when I read your story, no people, no speak, I could really relate to like that
Yep.
dichotomy of like being a normal person, but struggling with also wanting to be good in your spirituality, like that kind
Mhm.
of the frustration of it. I
Yeah.
just thought it was incredible, and I'm sure
Thank
maybe you
you.
hear that all the time, but I just thought I would.
No, I don't. That's really sweet. Yeah.
I really love how like the Zen teachings collide with like pop culture and punk music,
Yeah.
and like the repetition of the chant "May all beings" is like sincere but also ironic. Was that intentionally the spine of the piece, or did that come in later when you were writing it?
I don't know if it was the spine of it, but I realized there was a good hook to it and it made sense. So I stuck with it and definitely used it in telling the story. I mean, it was so strange, because like you, I had a huge spiritual craving when I was really young. Like, and I and my parents were divorced, fallen Catholics, and we would find a church at Christmas in the newspaper to go to. My mom was kind of a hippie, and and spiritual in her own way. But yeah, so I started like looking into like, oh my God, what is Zen? You know, like when I was 20, and I went on this retreat. I'd been in LA just out of acting school, and I was doing meditation with this friend of mine, and there was a retreat happening out in Joshua Tree, and he bailed the last minute, and I had ended up committing to it and never doing a silent retreat, going out by myself in this car that barely made it, and getting there and being like, I'd never, you know, when you go on a retreat, you're studying your mind. You're pausing everything. And man, I was like,
Yeah.
I was just drinking, running wild, having a freaking blast. And to stop and have total silence was too much. So I lasted a full day, one night, and I left in the middle of the night on like my second night. But the funny thing is, I had a tape of The Cure, and I had this beat up 70s Falcon, I didn't want to wake anybody up, so I rolled the car down the drive with it off, popped in the tape, and the first song that was cranking was by The Cure, and it was like sitting in silence, and it was all about silence and sitting there. I was like, it was just so surreal and perfect. And it was where I was at that time, and I was like, this is kind of a sign, like, it's okay to leave this retreat right now. Like I wasn't ready for it. And I continually have
Mm.
gone back to Zen. And I ended up actually seriously studying Zen for a few years with different teachers. But at that age in the game, yeah. The Zen, the dichotomy, like you said, like it's hard to like, here we are in this material world where our senses want us to enjoy everything here to we're just craving happiness, whether that's through whatever. When you're young, it's love and drugs and sex and success, and it's always still those things. But then as you get older, the journey starts to shift, and maybe you start to go inside a little bit. But being young, I didn't get like I remember asking the teacher, like, you had these darshans, would you would get to ask at that retreat and say, hey, I was like, man, I just want to be an artist. I just want to be an artist. That's all I want to do is art. Like how is Zen going to help me do art? And he said to me, well, maybe at some point you want to give up that art. Like this will be more important. And that was the wrong thing to say to a 20-year-old just starting his career in something. And I was like, I guess this isn't what I want to do. Like if he's already talking about people leaving their art to just meditate. And I get that, in 50s, 60s and things change and you go more within. But at that point it was like,
Yeah.
oh hell, it was super confusing to me. So I feel like I've always straddled this, how to be in the material world and be happy and get success, but also have the spiritual side that kind of helps people and rises above it and isn't, you can't control. If you're going to base your happiness on the outside conditions, it's going to be a tough ride for you. At some point, you have to realize that
Yeah.
whatever the conditions are outwardly, inwardly, the way you perceive them is what's going to make you happy. So,
Yeah.
that's been the journey. It's like, and that's hard, man, because I love a lot of the stuff the world offers me still. I'm still a big kid. I get pulled into all of it, you know?
I think that's one of the things for me that, especially now, as someone who, is gay, the real struggle for me was that being pushed to like discover my relationship with God, I just felt like the God that I was discovering did not match the what Christians were trying to teach me. So it's
Right.
like, so I felt really conflicted in being like, well, actually, my version of this God, based on my prayer and study or meditation, and is way more accepting than the version that than you're teaching me about.
Yeah.
So I was like, I found like my real struggle just came with that stark difference between trusting my spiritual self
Yeah.
or trusting like
Yeah. The
you know
book.
the word, so to speak.
Yeah.
And there was a line actually in your writing that really struck me that I loved, and it was, "The secret has no meaning." I just wanted to ask you like what that sentence means to you now, like after, do I say after all these years? That
Yeah.
you're not that old at all, but at this stage in your life, what that means for you now?
The secret has no meaning is I mean, that's a very Zen thought because we give life all the meaning we give it through what we think of it, our thoughts, right? So if
Mhm.
there's a secret, whatever that secret is that you discover, you're still going to have a thought about it. So the secret itself is meaningless because everyone's going to have a different relationship to that secret. You know what I mean? If there's some great spiritual teaching
Yeah.
I give to you, you're going to interpret it, and that's what man does. And you're going to start your religion, and someone else will interpret it and start his religion, and they'll divide off that one secret. So the secret has no meaning because it's only the meaning we give it. That's the whole teachings of Buddhism is emptiness, and with this emptiness is things innately do not are not they don't have meaning, they don't have substance, they're impermanent, they're always changing, they're not what they are. So in this split second we give meaning to our experience and tell a story about it. So I just love I love Zen teachings because they cook down all the bullshit
Yeah.
and get rid of all the dogma. And there, you know what I mean? I mean, yeah, there's the Buddha, but it's not like he's leading, like he didn't say just don't have faith in me. It's not about faith. He said everything I've written down, you see if you experience it yourself and find it to be true. Experience it and see. So that's really cool that that line resonated with you because I think it is confusing, but I think it's like a little koan, I mean, that's what these Zen koans are. They're to kind of stop the mind and have you look at the world a little differently, right?
I loved it. I felt really quite moved when I read that because I felt like I could really relate to it, and in a lot of ways for me, it was like it felt like a bit of a call, like a call to action for me, to like to be present, to just be like to just be. And
Yeah,
I think that's something I've struggled with like my whole life, that now as I'm getting older, I really like I'm finding myself I feel so much more fulfilled when I just be. So I just loved
yeah,
it. I really related to it. It was brilliant, and I'm glad that
yeah.
I loved it because obviously, I didn't want to come on here and like and spoof, or anything.
Right,
I
right.
loved that. Like the more I looked into what you were doing, it was like great. It was just great work on all sides. So I was like,
Well, you're very kind. Thank you.
I don't know if
So,
you've got the time, but I wanted to just
yeah.
ask you if you could tell me a bit about your work with the incarcerated. What does theater or writing offer incarcerated people that maybe other forms of expression don't?
Well, one of the things I see is within the environment we go in, it offers them a chance to be vulnerable. And in that world, these I mostly work with men. In some instances, I work with women, with formerly incarcerated on the outside with things. But prison in Lancaster, it's all men. And these men in prison that they don't they have to have the mask. They have to wear the mask of the hard guy or whatever to survive. And we give them the opportunity to tell their story that they've maybe never told before, and through these writing prompts. And it takes a lot of trust, and it's a big ask from us, but we start very simple, and little by little, the facade starts to crack, and they start to tell their truths and their pain and what they went through and their trauma. And once they read it out loud, we always encourage everyone to read out loud. They don't have to, but we'll have
Mm,
a prompt, and we go around. You can just see the release, like their whole face and body changes. Like they're in there when we come in and first time we meet them, and they're judging us. They're like, what are you doing? What are we doing? Why should I be here? Why should I write?
mhm.
Why should I tell you why should I, they're, because it's like there's a lot of, oh my God, think about the environment they're in. So once they start opening up and telling their stories, um, it gives them a chance, that humanity that they might have lost when they were 8 years old and had to join a gang because their parents were divorced, that it's been 8 years old since they could be vulnerable and say what they felt. So I think that's what's different with our program versus other people who come in and maybe do yoga or painting or music. Um, we go we go right to the heart of their humanity and ask them to join us in a very vulnerable place that is pretty risky, and 99% of the time they go for the ride. We have had a couple men it's too much for, and they'll leave the program, but that's like super rare. Um, so for me, I think I saw I definitely get more than I give for being in there. You know what I mean? I mean, I come out of there feeling like, wow, that was therapy for me because, we just oh God, it's such a strange time to be in the world, with everything going on and social media and all we have, and then and just you walk in a grocery store and all the food, you mean we just take everything for granted. Let's just put it that way. So when you're in an environment where like they have zero, you just leave going, okay, I mean, it's always a reboot for me, a recalibration of my life and just gratefulness. How grateful, how much I have. Because, little by little, I mean, gratefulness, I think, that's probably the salve that could heal any illness, in society is to be grateful for what you have. Because it's just really hard to be that way, and it's the opposite of being the victim. And everybody wants to be the victim. So to be grateful for 2 seconds, and that's what it always reminds me of. Just be grateful and just grateful that I had loving parents, like I had, they weren't perfect and there were issues, but in general, I was, had love and food and clothing. And it's such a simple equation. The people who commit crimes and stuff, they're usually from a traumatic background and did not have the opportunity we did. So, I just feel really committed to the work because the more we can convince people that people shouldn't be locked away for 50 years and after being in prison for 25 years, 30 years, no matter what you did, you might have changed. And these men don't get a lot of the men we worked with have gotten out and been released from, LWOP, life without parole. And but they had to go, they had to do therapy. They had to do, they've had to go through, they've had to make amends with the families they've hurt and the people they've hurt. And they've had to take classes, you know what I mean? And go through programs. So there's a whole process of someone who gets rehabilitated and admit their crime, and make restitution. But those people should be let out. And there's a lot of people in society that think, man, if you've done something bad, you should never get a second chance. And I've seen these men now and women who are out in society and work with us and they do theater with us on the outside, and they're incredible people that are contributing so much to society. And what a loss that we don't work more to let people have a second chance in this world, especially in America. I mean, we just lock. I don't know what it's like with you. Do you have these programs there in Ireland?
Well, I don't know if I haven't actually really looked into it in this side of the world, but I kind of worked with when I lived in LA. I kind of worked. It was on a much smaller level, and it wasn't through theater, but I used to like tutor people in juvenile hall that to help them
Oh,
get their
wow.
GED, and it was just a really that I felt was a rewarding experience because I just got to meet people from a completely different way of life with completely different experiences, and it did a lot for me in helping me to learn to not be, well, judgmental of, people's backgrounds, and like you said, to be grateful too, because I mean, I come from a very, like, working class Belfast family, and I would say in relation to the people I was with, that I was the bottom of the totem pole, from these kind of rich, grew up in the church kids that were, like, doing this. It was really about what they could get out of it rather than what they could give. So I felt like I could relate with the people in juvenile hall more than I could relate with the people, that I was doing
Sure.
the actual the
Yeah.
work with.
Yeah.
But again, going into there feeling like the bottom of the totem pole and then talking to these people that have just had insanely hard lives, from the get-go, like you said, forced to join gangs, have seen things that you would never imagine having to see. It really just I think that's maybe why I love people so much, because when you just realize, like, I don't understand how all people don't just, like, love other people and want everyone to, like, be
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you.
to think that, like, some people just, like, they wanna lock people away or they don't want immigrants to be in their country. Like, that's
Yeah.
very topical, obviously, at the moment in the entire world, and it is just I almost wish that people were forced to do things like this as part of like school or like education, because I think if we understood other
Yeah,
people a little bit better.
I'm with you 100%, 100%. I'm with you. Exactly. If you would talk to these people, I was actually afraid to go inside. Like I didn't, because I'd been working on the outside with formerly incarcerated, and the woman I work with, Theater Workers Project, Susie Tanner, said, "Do you want to come inside?" And I was like, "Oh, no, that's not for me," because I have like some anxiety issues, and I thought, "Oh, locked in. I don't know what, you know what I mean?" And I'm so glad I did it because it was the exact opposite experience of what I had imagined. Who the men were when I met
Yeah,
them, what I felt, it was like 180 degrees of like, because we have this TV movie mentality what prison is. And yes, there is a lot of violence, and yes, it is a lot of that, but there's also a lot of humanity and a lot of amazing, beautiful people, in there. And
yeah,
yeah, it's like you said, it's like, yeah, if people see the problem, what's so sad is like I'm like you is, you know, fear. All this immigration stuff, and is there enough for me, and money, and like fear, ginning up fear is such an easy thing to do, especially with social media now, and the fear gadget in our pocket that every time we click on it, we see 12 images of something horrible happening all over the world. And that fear, people deal with fear in different ways. To keep an
hmm
open heart and not be afraid is really hard to do. It's scary to have this human experience and be in this vulnerable body, and the forces out there. I mean, look at our country right now. What we're going through with just wanting. Oh my God, with the ICE and having people scared of just scared of your neighbor. I mean, it's unconceivable that we've arrived here, and it does, and it affects the whole
yeah,
world. You look at the other countries that since so and so came into power, and they're leaning more that way. And it's just the more you can keep people afraid, the more control you can have over them. How can you control someone who's not afraid?
yeah.
Look at Gandhi. How can you control someone who has no fear? People who are scared will fucking do anything. They'll do anything you tell them. Like, I think it's becoming so obvious in the last few years how ridiculous this all is. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think the world, then I think that there's a shift happening. You know what I mean? There's this decentralization happening. I don't know if you're into crypto, but our
hmm
monetary system is shifting away from, making paper money, and people are getting independence.
Yeah,
Their money system. You're not going to need, and then also with my movie business, the decentralization of Hollywood, like moving all over the globe, and the internet, and I can talk to you in Ireland. So there's this huge connection that is amazing, and yet there's also this complete crumbling of the way we used to be. That's I live in LA. It's literally burning up. Our neighborhoods are burning up. The
yeah,
planet's burning up, or it's flooding. So it's like everything is just the uncertainty is ratcheting up. But I think out of that, something better is gonna appear. I just do. It has to. And I think we're wired to find happiness. That we are literally wired for joy. That is our heart.
yeah.
We're wired for love. So you got to fight that. You actually have to fight that. It feels bad to feel bad. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, I can't do it. If I get in a fight 2 seconds, I'm like, oh my God, I can't. This feeling is so horrible.
Then I think that's why there's a resurgence of like all of these things that we're even talking about with like Buffy and Sex in the City is like it's such escapism.
Yeah.
What have you got going on at the minute? What are you working on, and what's kind of next for you?
Yeah. You know, so I've really been into my writing lately, and I've been into writing shorter pieces. So I have all these short pieces, and writing's tricky to get out in the world. You got to get it published, or you publish it yourself, or what do you do? Or you go to a theater and you read some of your pieces. So what I decided to do, I took some of my short writings, and I made little short films of them that I'm calling nanoscopic beats. And
Mhm.
I've got a handful of them that I'm making, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them yet. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to enter in them festivals, or they could even be put up in an art gallery, or have an evening with music and show some of them. But to me, it's just Keeping the process going. I always think the trick of art is finding a way to share it. I'm taking those pieces and putting them into short films, and we'll see. Maybe I'll start releasing them on Instagram at some point. I don't know, but that's kind of
Yeah.
the gist. And I continue to do. We're starting up. We're going up to Lancaster, um, to work inside again, and I also published a book of a gentleman just got out of prison who we worked with on the inside, and I mentored him in writing for a few
Mhm.
months, and his writing was so good that, my wife and I published a book of his writing that, just came out a couple
Amazing.
months ago. His name is Brandon Baker, and the book is called Where I Belong, and it's on Amazon, and it's short writings of his journey to what got him to where he is and him getting out. So,
Incredible.
love love helping, mentoring people write, and trying to write myself. And if Buffy calls Detective Paul back, that would be
Yeah.
amazing. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That's the dream. Well, we'll continue to keep checking in with you every now and then, and we'll
Please
obviously
do.
love to share and see the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time and for all of your incredible experience and stories. Like, I honestly can't thank you enough. Like it lends a lot of like authority and authenticity to like what we do to have people being willing to like come and chat with us as well. So we really, really appreciate it.
Well, this was just a joy, and I feel like I've met a kindred spirit. And I don't know why, but I knew when I watched your podcast and I was laughing so much and says like this, you felt immediately familiar to me. So I was really happy to do it. And thanks for bringing me on.
Thank you so much, and you can enjoy the boost and all the gay followers you're going to get over the next couple of weeks.
Hey man, I need followers. I don't hardly have any. So yeah, maybe this will work out in that area too. That would be great.
That'll be good. That was brilliant. Thank you so much, James.